Tom Nappy here, and we are joined by our weather enthusiast, Eric Carty, the water and sewer manager of your town of Hopkinton. Eric, how are you?
Hi, good morning, Tom. How you doing?
Good, good. Can't complain. Can't complain. So today we're going to talk about some weather trends that are happening in Hopkinton. And of course, you can see the Hopkinton weather trends on our website just about every week, hcam.tv, courtesy of Eric Carty. And Eric, it's been pretty warm so far this winter. And we were talking before this segment, and you mentioned that it was expected to be more cold, but it hasn't really panned out that way.
Yeah, the long-term models had hinted at December into early January being really the cold part of the winter up front, and that just hasn't turned out to be the case. So yeah, it was supposed to be a front-end loaded winter for the cold, and then back in January and February, trending back a little bit towards the warmer conditions that we've kind of seen in the last few years. Similar, they like to look back at old setups, and this is very familiar to, I think, 2011. And I want to say 2016 might have been the other one that they looked at that had similar conditions that they look at, the way the oceans are, the way the La Ninas and the El Ninas are setting up. So it was pretty comparable to that. But we're supposed to have a couple inches of snow the other day, and that turned out to be a bust. But we sure haven't been short on water, that's for sure. We had a record amount of rain through the summertime. I think it was the highest totals ever recorded for July, August, and September. And then even into the fall, continue with really wet months there. And then, as you mentioned, yeah, we were really warm. November was actually the sunniest month of the entire year, which is usually the reverse case. November is usually the cloudiest month of the entire year. So the weather is just all over the place. Our norms are out the window, and it's it's what you see is what you get pretty much nowadays.
Absolutely. And speaking of our norms, let's take a look at these trends here. You can see that the high, 60.5 degrees. That's pretty high temperature for this time of year. And then on average, 41.8 degrees. I'd imagine that's higher than normal.
It is definitely, yeah. As I mentioned to you earlier, we were out golfing last week, and we already golfed 3 times in December here, which is, usually everything is shut down late November because of the cold. So it's, yeah, definitely trending warmer. I was actually looking back on some of the stats from last year. And this time last year, we had 16 inches of snow on the ground. We got hit with a big snowstorm up front, which was pretty much the only storm we had for the entire year. And then Christmas Day, we got an inch of rain. It turned really warm, and we lost that entire 16 inches of snow was gone, because I remember dealing with flooding actually on Christmas Day. So it just seems like we go from one extreme to the other now.
That almost seems to be how it's panning out to be this year. We were supposed to get snow last week, as you mentioned. It ended up just being kind of like ice pellet kind of thing going on. It was just little rocks of ice that wasn't too pleasant, but I guess it's better than snow. But it's also been pretty windy lately. Some strong winds over last night, 3.1 average wind for the last week. So are you expecting any snow this winter? Are the skiers going to be happy, or do you think this is probably going to be a pretty dry winter?
Well, so far the setup right now, and if you probably saw in the news, there was some devastating winds last week with a big tornado outbreak, or a week and a half ago. And then even last week up through the Midwestern plains in Colorado, they had over 100-mile-an-hour winds. And it's crazy the way the setup. Right now, the Gulf of Mexico is record warmth for this time of year. And that moisture coming off the Gulf with the jet stream that's coming down from the north is just producing these extremes that we're seeing. So we're still set up for the pattern that we could get some storminess coming in. It just depends on whether we're on the warm side or the cold side. It's definitely stormy. So it's either going to be wet or flakes on one end or the other until this pattern changes. But the general perception of most of the meteorologists that I follow in the long-term models that it was going to be cold up front with most of the snow in December and early January, and then turn out to be mild for the rest of the winter there. So we'll come to see if that comes to fruition. But that's the way they had been looking at it.
I'd have to imagine there'll be one storm in there somewhere. You usually get that one storm, but I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I'm a winter enthusiast, so I'd like to at least see some snow. And I was looking back, it was 4 years ago this week we were out actually skating on the lakes. It was so cold early on through November that we had a good safe base for ice. So it's going to be tough even to get the Park and Recs is looking to get the community rink going again, but it's going to be tough with the way things are right now. This looks like the coldest stretch right here, and then we might go back to mild again. So.
I'd have to imagine, though, that these conditions have been pretty favorable for the DPW work you guys have been doing.
Yeah, so far so good. It looks like maybe tomorrow there might be a little bit more of that ice mixture that we had, and then maybe again on Christmas Day. Those are sometimes tougher. I think sometimes they like the snow better. They know what's coming and they can plan for it. But yeah, they only had to go out and I think salt just minimally during that last storm, and they had planned to stay all night due to the forecast, but they were able to come home early and tomorrow looks like just another light precipitation event that they might be able to just get away with the salt for sure again.
And on another note, how is everything going at the DPW? You guys still working on any major projects, or is that all pretty much on hold for the winter?
For the most part, everything has wrapped up. We finished our water main back in the end of October on Hayden Road, which was a great connection. We're actually right now just flushing the new water main that was put in for the subdivision that connects Chamberlain Street with Whalen Road. And that's going to be a significant loop that will benefit our system. So we're flushing that out. It passed all its tests, so we should have that livened up for tomorrow, which will be a significant, again, loop for us. So if something happens on Main Street, normally the town would be disconnected from both parts would be separated, but this loop will now help keep that and will also help with firefighting issues as well. So that's a big benefit for us. Of course, we're also still dealing with the PFAS issue. We have to continue with our monthly testing. Right now, we're looking into getting some type of filtration unit down at our wells. Unfortunately, there's just so many communities dealing with this right now that it's very hard to come by. So it's looking like it might be a 6 to 8 month window before we can get some filtration in here because of all the different communities vying for it. Everyone had to test for it by October. We went in with the early program doing it with the state grant money. So we're a little bit ahead of schedule, but there were some others that had to do it a lot earlier, some of the bigger cities, so they kind of got to jump on any of those filtration units that might be available. And of course, with all the supply chain issues, getting parts to build things is compounding the issues there. But so we'll still be working on those throughout the winter. And then, hopefully, knock on wood, we don't get any deep freezes. That tends to start causing the water main break. So knock on wood, we've been lucky so far in that avenue.
Well, you guys are doing a great job. I know you've had your hands full this past year. So thanks for all the work you do for town. And we'll have you back again to check in on the weather, see if any trends are changing, and see if we'll get snow at any point this winter. But so far, a much warmer winter than expected. Thanks a bunch, Eric.
Yep. All right. Thanks for having me as always, Tom. Appreciate it.